thank you so much for coming. A lot of you have been involved in the Women in Public campaign for nearly the 4 years, and I'm very pleased to celebrate International Women's Day with you. But this event also brings about some poignancy for me as it marks the close of the campaign and is probably one of my very last speeches as Presiding Officer. I'm not standing for election in May. I don't even care about the date of the elections. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to spend a little time reflecting on the Women in Public Life campaign and what it has brought about. After our fact-finding tour of Wales in 2012, culminating in the national conference, it became clear from what you were telling us that to get more women into decision-making powers, a multi-stranded approach was required so that we could fill the gaps that there were there was little or no provision. But what's interesting, there were obviously some barriers, but also perceived barriers. And there were lots of barriers, but the main thing was this issue of confidence. And that's something which has been the thread throughout the last 3 years. So we set about arranging a programme of speakers, role models who had broken through into occupations that were traditionally dominated by men. The intention was that they would inspire new audiences through talking about their experiences. And though I initially had some doubts about the ability to secure some of these very high-profile speakers, I am delighted that they bought into what we were trying to do and willingly participated. Among them was Helen Clark, a former New Zealand Prime Minister, human rights campaigner Shami Chakrabarti, broadcaster and loose woman Janet Street Porter, leading scientist Baroness Susan Greenfield, economist Sylvia Hewlett, who came over from New York, and finally the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julie Gillard. And any of you at any of those talks, I'm sure, will remember how fantastic they were. And I think particularly Julie Gillard, if you weren't there, you need to get on the web and have a look at the misogyny speech, because, to deliver that must have been a fabulous feeling. But, and also she was very brave. But I think we can all agree that each brought something different to the table and enthused many women to raise their heads above the parapet and get involved. Now, research provided in the Who Runs Wales report, annually updated by the Equality and Human Rights Commission, told us that women were, without doubt, underrepresented in decision-making positions throughout Wales. And at the same time, women also told us that access to opportunities was difficult. And we worked with Women Making a Difference and created a portal which hosted not only inspirational stories and blogs, but brought together board and trustee vacancy advertisements, a one-stop shop which became more and more popular as the campaign progressed. Now, feedback also told us that there were existing opportunities at grassroots level to empower women, but there was a deficit in those wishing to break through into leadership positions. Now, addressing this brought out a new strand for the campaign, the Women in Public Life Development Scheme. Its purpose was to ensure the effective development and progression of women into roles often have a direct influence on people's lives across Wales. It would also provide mentoring, shadowing and training opportunities for a number of women in Wales for 18 months. With 200 expressions of interest in the scheme and 70 actual applications, we knew from early on that we had pitched it at the right level. The successful applicants have now completed their journey, and one of my proudest moments was our recent event when we were able to celebrate their achievements. It would be remiss of me not to mention our delivery partners, Chwarae Teg, and then there was light. Wow, thank you very much. Is Joy Kent up on that machine up there or something? But we need to mention Chwarae Teg and Cardiff Business School because they have been fantastic helping us to deliver this programme. The expertise they brought added significant value to the development scheme, and I would like to express my thanks to them again. We wanted mentees to develop the confidence and skills to apply for positions in public life, achieve promotions at work, or identify their career plan and goals, where they would actually fit into public life, and to hopefully achieve their first public appointments. But as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And one thing is for certain, every one of them has found a newfound confidence, and I've met them all, and I know the difference in those women is fantastic. The outcomes are tremendous, with 85% of participants having applied for a position in public life, and 31 of them applying for more than one position. Over half have been successful, and some actually gaining more than one position. They are, of course, mentors themselves for those who now come behind. Now, since the conclusion of the development scheme, I've been exploring options to ensure that this has a sustainable future. And I've been really pleased to have positive discussions with Welsh Government ministers, and I hope that they will take this scheme unto themselves, because it is so successful. It's such a shame if it doesn't continue. So, ministers may join us this evening, but they are actually all working. It's great. When you're presiding officer, you don't have to do anything. But we do have a very important public health bill with 150 amendments, and I think they're on about number 64 at the moment. But it is important. That's why we're here. You know, we're here to actually make the best possible laws for the people of Wales. Now, tomorrow sees the Assembly debating a motion which I tabled to celebrate International Women's Day and the need to accelerate gender parity, particularly in public life. Now, I won't be chairing the debate. I'm actually speaking in it, and I'm really looking forward to that immensely. And during the Women in Public Life campaign, I was also pleased that we were able to work with my political colleagues on our Women in Democracy caucus. With membership from each Assembly party, our aim was to seek and impart international best practice. If something worked well in parliaments elsewhere, why shouldn't it work well in Wales? And they could learn lots from us as well. Now, we've received presentations from academics and researchers, but we also visited other parliaments, such as Iceland, to get a sense of how they achieved better gender equality. It's interesting, gender equality in the general population is fantastic, but not quite as good in the Assembly as we would have expected, but they are working on that. Just out of interest, we're having this debate this afternoon on vaping, and we don't allow smoking in public places. But I did have the Speaker of Iceland here this week for lunch with a party which consisted of one woman, and after lunch, they didn't get out the cigarettes or anything. They just got out this round box, quite a big round box, and opened it up, and it had snuff in it. And I thought, blimey, does this fit in with our rules and regulations here? So, you know, snuffers are welcome, I suppose. I don't really know. But that was really quite a shock, because I just remember my grandfather using snuff. I didn't know anybody still used it, but apparently in Iceland they do. So, but you would be very pleased to know that the Assembly does compare very well with other parliaments. And as you know, at one time we achieved over 50% women membership here. But there has been a drift in recent years, so we knew as a caucus that we had to challenge the political parties, put this right, and put it right at the centre of the agenda. And that's what we did. We wrote to them lovely warm letters back saying they were doing it. And then we had this by-election Anglesey, and there wasn't a woman member in sight. But there we're still working on it. So while each of the political parties has their own internal arrangements for encouraging, mentoring and bringing on women talent for the future, it is not possible to tell at this stage whether that will come to fruition as the Assembly, until after the Assembly elections in May. Now, as we know, these things are a slow burn, but this is a very, very slow burn. However, I shall be watching for the margins and challenging if more needs to be done. Now, turning back to International Women's Day, you will be aware that this year's theme is Pledge for Parity, where men and women can pledge to take a concrete step to help us achieve gender parity more quickly. We can't do this without the men. And we have a pledge board, which I'd like you to sign this evening. And it's not just about making a pledge that's important, it's following it up and taking action. So we'd like to take photos of your pledge and then use social media as part of your commitment to take it forward. I think that would be an excellent contribution from all of us. So please remember to hashtag Women of Wales. And if I knew how to do that, I would be very impressed. All I know, you can hashtag. But yes, it really is important that we get the message out everywhere that we can. And hyperlocal news is the way forward. You know, big press releases and that, they don't get taken up. But if you keep on tweeting and... See, I do know these words. I'm very impressed with myself. Anyway, before I invite Professor Laura McAllister to the stage, I wanted to pay tribute to the Assembly Women's Staff Network, which is called Inspire. It has a wonderful and committed membership of Assembly staff, and I'm really pleased that they've been able to attend many of the Women in Public Life events. I know that much of what Inspire wanted to do, such as arranging a programme of inspirational speakers to talk to its members, has been somewhat overshadowed by my own campaign. But Sarah Crosby is the chair, and your pledge this evening will be very important. I'm sure that you will make sure that the women who work here at the Assembly realise that they are fantastic people and the Assembly could not run without them. I'm delighted to have one of the great role models of the Assembly here this evening, the Chief Executive Claire Clancy, who is sitting over there. She's sitting over there because she went out in very high heels the other day and she's struggling ever since, so she's sitting down. Sorry about that, Claire, but I thought I should tell them. So Claire is just amazing. She is a real role model to me, and I think the fact that the Assembly is top of Stonewall Cymru in Wales is place to work. It's third in the UK Stonewall list against all private companies as well, just shows. And if the Assembly can't be an exemplar employer, who can? So Claire, thank you so much for what you've done. Fantastic. So we've also got Elizabeth Jones here as our Chief Legal Officer, and it could be that's why we're doing so well. We've got all these women. Fantastic. But we've also got Craig Stevenson, who is our expert and our pusher on equality. So Craig, thank you for what you do. You're fantastic. I'm sorry the rest of your choir is not here tonight, but never mind, you'll be fine. But it is important you have somebody at management level who is prepared to put the head above the parapet and really push things forward. And so if you're in a position in your particular business or association or organisation, please make sure that you do put your head above the parapet and start asking the right questions. So it's very important that we do have a solid network for the women's, solid ground for the women's network to actually move forward and actually challenge it for the next level. But I would now finally like to say thank you very much for coming International Women's Day. This campaign has been a wonderful journey. We've done it together. We couldn't have done it without each other. I had a lovely message today from my women farmers in North Wales. Are any of the women farmers here from North Wales? There they are, fantastic. Do you know, these women are amazing. They really are incredible. They weren't farmers' wives. They were determined to tell me that. And in fact, when we have, the farmers have to diversify, the male farmers don't do the diversifying. It's the women farmers that do all the diversifying. So you really are very welcome indeed. And Karen, who is one of the numbers, has said she would like to try and duplicate what we've been doing in North Wales. So she's going to look to see if there is a move there. So women farmers welcome, and everybody else welcome. It's been a real privilege to work with you. But for me, working with Laura McAllister is something. She is just unique. She's an amazing woman. She's here, she's there, she's everywhere. I'm delighted you're here this evening. Laura McAllister.